All right, so now we're going to pick it back up with 8.3. And at 8.2, we talked about Charles Darwin's idea of evolution by natural selection. So, what are evidences, or what are some things that scientists or science use to justify this idea of evolution? Well, we'll look at some different vocab terms here that we can look at and document as scientists that kind of support evolution. Now, remember, with evolution, this is something that happens over a long period of time, not just in a single life cycle. Okay, this is a gradual changes as these organisms and populations move towards perfection. Now, that's not to say that there could not be some mutations that kind of portray themselves faster, but natural, selection driven evolution is a slow process that happens over many generations. So the first thing we can use to look at, scientists use to look at, is fossil records. Okay, so we could take fossils that have been discovered and found and archived um, of the remains of other animals and plants from other time periods, and we can kind of compare and contrast skeletal systems and other things that's kept in the fossil records to current animals. Okay, so this shows links between ancestral species and modern species. So, of course, when you think of fossils, you automatically go to dinosaurs, and while that is correct, there's still a lot of other fossil records that are used to show how organisms and populations and species have changed over millions and millions of years. So, geographic distribution. So, this is when organisms from similar environments develop similar adaptations. And this is also an example of convergent evolution. So, what we can see now that we can map and look at genetics is we can find that there are the same species across multiple different places in the world. But what we see that's different between them is the different type of adaptations based off the life cycle, or the not life cycle, based off the lifestyle of that organism in that particular part of the world. Okay, so for instance, there you can see the anteaters, different anteaters all across the world, and armadillos alike. Um, and we see similarities and differences based off the environment and ecosystem where they're located. Homologous structures are probably one of the bigger things when we talk about evidence of evolution. And so these are similar structures with not necessarily similar functions. So organisms that have similar structures to one another show a common ancestry. Structures have developed different functions depending on what is needed in their particular environment. Okay, so we can look at skeletal structures there of the pterodactyl, the dolphin, dog, and also a human, and notice that there's the humerus bone is located in all of those. Okay, you can look at a bat and a seal and a sheep and a sand shrew, and we still see similar type bone structures, which means that at one point in time they were very closely related on this idea of ancestry. But as these organisms have developed and lived different lives in different areas, those developments in the structure of those bone structures have changed and altered to push these organisms towards perfection. Analogous structures are structures with similar functions and appearance, but without recent common ancestry. So let's think about wings. Okay, if we look here at what's written, bugs, birds, and bats, they all have wings. Nobody's denying that. But birds and bugs are not sharing a common ancestor because they have wings. Two completely different lineages along the species tree, so to speak. They all fly. The wings do the same thing, but there's not a common ancestor between bugs, birds, and bats. Okay. Another example: fins are fish, dolphins, and turtles. They all have fins and flippers that allow them to swim better, but they lack a similar recent common ancestor. Vestigial organs are structures that are no longer used, but was used at some point during the animal's evolutionary history. An example: whales do have pelvic bones, just like you and I. Okay, remember, our pelvic bones is where the ball and socket joint of the hip is. It kind of gives us a lot of flexibility. So whales do have a pelvic bone. right? It doesn't do anything for them now, but it is there. Another example, wisdom teeth and tailbones in humans. Okay, the wisdom teeth um, are slowly starting to kind of evolve their way out of humans. You're seeing less and less individuals with wisdom teeth. Some of you probably had some wisdom teeth. Some of you probably have not had a wisdom teeth and won't have a wisdom teeth. So what a wisdom teeth is as our brains have grown larger, our skull, or not our skull, our jaw has gotten smaller. So over the generations and generations in human development, humans have lost rows of teeth, okay, or columns of teeth, or however, whatever the correct terminology is. My wife's not in the car right now, or I would ask her. But we've lost teeth as our brains have enlarged and our jaws have gotten smaller, and these are called wisdom teeth. And we have to have these wisdom teeth removed if they come in. Like I had all four of mine come in because there's not enough space in our jaw, and it causes a lot of structural problems for humans. Tailbones. Humans have a tailbone. Don't have a tail. At one point in time during our development, we have a tail, but we don't have a tail now walking around. But we do have a tailbone. It's a slight indentation right at the base of the spine and the back. Embryology. So embryos of all vertebrates have similar structures in early stages of development. So like it said, even humans have a tail at some point. Humans have gills at some point during development. And we can look at these things, and there's a split moment in time where a lot of animals look almost identical on the road of development as embryos. And as these organisms become more um, specialize in their development, then these structures begin um, taking on different roles, for instance. Okay. So the gills in human embryos don't stay gills for long, but they are gills for a split second, so to speak. Last but not least is molecular evidence. So organisms that are closely related have similar biochemistry. So we can look at DNA, protein structures, amino acids, hormones, and we can look to see, now that we can read genetic codes and genetic frequencies, and we can look and see how closely related organisms are on a genetic scale. And this brings a lot of interesting information that there's really, as far as genetics are concerned or proteins are concerned, there's not a lot of difference between humans and some fruits or some very what we consider elementary insects on a genetic scale. So that's another way we can look for evidence of evolution happening. And that is the end of 8.3. There is a form that goes with this. Please complete that form. And if you need anything, let me know. Thank you.